Food and Wine Insider is a weekly look at a $1.5 trillion industry touching every American. Devoted to the business of purveying food and decanting wines, Food and Wine Radio is a unique program highlighting not food recipes or wine vintages, but how to make a profit while satisfying America's palates. Food and Wine Insider is all about better managing any business involving food and wine. Visit us at foodandwineinsider.com.
You know, Ann, you and I were both at the especially fancy food show a few weeks ago. We saw a lot of interesting coffee companies. One of the most interesting is the Vera Roasting Company. It's pioneering healthy innovations in gourmet coffee. I, for one, can vouch for that. And here to talk about them is Glen Miller. Glen, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Don. It's great to be here.
Okay, Glen, without further ado, I'm going to turn you over to Ann.
Thank you, Don. Welcome to Food and Wine Insider, Dr. Miller.
Oh, thank you, Ann. It's great to be here. Glad to talk about our product. We're really excited about it. I'm a professor of organic chemistry. I've been at the University of New Hampshire for 23 years. I'm currently serving as chair of the chemistry department. And for many of those years, really all of those years, I've done research. So I teach organic chemistry and other chemistries, but I also do research. And I've done a lot of research related to all natural organic compounds like resveratrol and other compounds. And so I've really been drawn to this particular antioxidant resveratrol for many years. I've known about its beneficial health properties, and I've also known that it's primarily found in red wine and a few other places, but not in significant concentrations elsewhere. And really our company was all about my passion for getting resveratrol into the American diet in a way that was outside of red wine. Although red wine is delicious, I love it myself and I drink it regularly, I knew that not every American consumed red wine, and in particular, not every American drinks red wine every day, which is really required in order to gain the health benefit of resveratrol.
You launched the brand in, I think it was December of 2015. What have been some of the challenges just in producing the product?
Yeah, there have been a large number of challenges right from the get-go. In terms of production, we spent some time, really months, developing a process to infuse the resveratrol into the bean right after roasting. And we wanted it infused in such a way that it would only, the resveratrol, this antioxidant, would only be released upon brewing. So it's not a coating that we put onto the bean. Technically, it's much more challenging than that. It's actually infused inside the bean, and sure enough, it's released only upon brewing the product. And moreover, we had more specifications. We wanted to make sure that it was released at the right quantities so that it mimicked a typical glass of red wine. So there was some formulation work that had to be done to make sure that when you brew a cup of our coffee, you're getting the same amount of resveratrol as you would get in a typical glass of red wine. So those were technical manufacturing problems that had to be overcome, and they were big ones. We did overcome them. We developed this process, and we applied for a U.S. patent, and in fact, we were awarded a U.S. patent last year in 2017 for not only the process, but also the composition of matter, coffee with resveratrol. So that was a technical challenge, but there were plenty of other challenges too, business challenges, getting the business set up and growing the business and learning about our customer base and who would be most interested in this product, and then constantly communicating with them and really getting their input. All of these things are challenges, especially for me, because I'm coming at this as an organic chemist, a professor of organic chemistry, not as a business person.
Right. And so how do you go about selling it? Because, to get it in front of a retailer is a whole other competency. So what was your go-to-market strategy? How did you go about doing that?
Yeah, great question. From the get-go, our strategy was to establish a direct-to-consumer online channel. So when we launched in December of 2015, about 2.5 years ago, we were entirely online. And as you know, the great part about a direct-to-consumer business like that is that you do get a chance to really get to know your customers. You learn a lot about them. You're communicating directly with them, as opposed to having a product on the shelf, which is good, but you're not really sure who's picking it up and who's purchasing it. So that's how we came out of the gate running, and we developed this strong direct-to-consumer channel. Now, I will say we got a little bit lucky because there was an article written in a local newspaper about our product and our innovation, and it was picked up by the Associated Press and published in 300 papers across the country. And so within a few days of launch, I think actually just within 3 days of launching, we had online customers in all 50 states. So that was lucky. But the product is good, and it's delicious tasting. Once we get customers, we tend to keep them. Our return rate is over 70%, which is crazy high, and it means that when people try our coffee, they really like it. So we started with that online channel, and it's really only more recently that we've begun moving into specialty retail, and there's lots of learnings that have taken place there.
So what are some of the key challenges? Well, let's talk about the online first. How do you ship to your customers? Are you shipping FedEx or UPS, or how is that working?
We use USPS, United States Postal Service, and it works well. They've been a reliable partner for us. They track everything. Every carrier's got tracking capabilities, so no matter the product is going to California or staying in our home state of New Hampshire or anywhere in between, it really doesn't matter. We know exactly where the product is at all times, when it's been delivered. So we really like that feature. USPS is also affordable for our packages. We're typically shipping either a single bag or 2 or 3 bags or boxes of coffee. Most customers are not ordering large packages, that are very heavy. So us USPS has worked really well. They've been a good partner, a reliable partner.
Now, have you had to figure the price of the shipping into the price of the product, or are you basically having the customer have to pay for the shipping?
We use a very simple model, which a lot of online channels use, and that is we set a price threshold. So in our case, it's $25. Any order under $25, and our customers pay $5 for shipping. Orders $25 and above is free shipping. So essentially, we're including the price and the cost of the product, sort of in a roundabout way. Folks that order more product are going to get free shipping, and of course, there's a little bit more profit in more product for us, so we can afford to do that.
Sure. And does the resveratrol, because I'm trying to get that word correct, does it have a shelf life itself? In other words, does the potency of that particular ingredient, does it dissipate over time, or does it really hold up in the coffee over a good long time, over the age of the coffee itself?
And you did pronounce it perfectly, resveratrol. And yeah, it's a great question. It turns out resveratrol has been around for millions of years. Mother Nature makes resveratrol and places it in the skins of certain red grape species, which is how it found its way into red wine to begin with. It was kind of just coincidence that it happens to be in red wine. It's an antioxidant found in the grape plant, primarily in the grape skins, and it just kind of gets extracted into the wine during winemaking naturally. It's a very robust compound. As I said, it's been around for millions of years and can withstand all sorts of harsh conditions. In fact, if you think about it, that's one of the let's say, design criteria that Mother Nature had on this compound. It's protecting the grape plant in times of stress, which include drought, infestation by pests, etc. In those situations, when the plant is under the most severe of conditions, Mother Nature's cranking up the production of resveratrol. So it's a very robust compound. It does its job. It shuts down free radicals, which is what antioxidants do. This one happens to be particularly potent. Shuts down free radicals. They're associated with all sorts of things like disease and even aging. And so very robust compound, has a very long shelf life. much longer than the coffee itself. Coffee has a pretty long shelf life as a product anyway, but resveratrol honestly would have a shelf life of hundreds of years, so it's not an issue.
Oh, excellent. And now in terms of getting it to retail, what have been some of the challenges and helping the retailer understand what the benefit is of this coffee and what makes it different?
Well, that is the challenge, exactly what you said, the messaging. When we have a chance to sit down with people and talk to them and tell them about our product, most people really resonate with the idea. Most people know that red wine is a healthful drink if it's consumed responsibly. And they may not have heard of resveratrol, but they know there's something in the red wine, and it doesn't surprise them that it turns out to be this antioxidant called resveratrol. So when we have an opportunity to really talk to people and convey that message, they love the message. They try the coffee, they love the coffee, and we've got them as customers. But the problem is when you're on a supermarket shelf or similar shelf, where is that messaging going to take place? And so that has been the challenge for us as we move into retail. Again, the great advantage of the online channel is that we can message a lot more effectively. We can send emails. We can put messaging right on our web store, and people can read it and see it and resonate with that message. But you lose that opportunity when you move into retail. So we struggle with this every day. We meet about this regularly. How can we improve our messaging? Our product labeling has to be really solid. The logo has to really convey this message. The tagline associated with the product has to convey this message. Basically got to sit on that supermarket shelf and tell a story, and that's really, really tough to do.
Mm. And, I was just curious because I didn't ask the question previously, but do you also sell on like Amazon or any of the other websites that sell directly to the consumer?
We do. We're on Amazon. We're even on eBay. We don't do much business on most of those channels except Amazon. Our own online channel, which is veraroasting.com, and then Amazon under Vera Roasting. That's where most of our sales are.
Okay. We've been talking with Dr. Glen Miller. He's an organic chemist who's figured out how to get resveratrol into coffee and thus developed the brand Coffee V. Dr. Miller, what is the price of coffee versus conventional grinds that you would get in a supermarket? Yeah,
our price is a 14-ounce bag, which is fairly large as bags of coffee go, is $14.95, and that's for our conventional coffee that we've been discussing, the coffee with resveratrol. For some of the other innovations that we've explored and developed products, in particular our Sunshine Blend, which has additional vitamin D added in order to help fight vitamin D deficiencies. We think that's a really important product, as 40% of all U.S. adults have a vitamin D deficiency. That one is a 12-ounce bag for $14.95. And then our latest innovation is what we call our Wellness Blend, and that has cannabidiol or CBD in it. And that one's quite a bit more expensive because the CBD is so expensive. That one's $34.95 for a 12-ounce bag.
You know what? I'm going to come on to the Wellness Blend coffee. It has anti-anxiety, inflammation, pain relief benefits, despite it not having received approval from the FDA. Your CBD is derived from hemp and therefore does not have the psychoactive effect of it having come from marijuana. Cannabis in food products is starting to be a trend, and your Wellness Blend, again, it comes from hemp. It doesn't come from the marijuana plant, but I really would love for you to talk a little bit about the product and its benefits.
Sure. First of all, you hit the nail on the head. CBD products are already emerging, and in my prediction or in my estimate, they're going to just take off in a big, big way in the next couple of years. There's a farm bill which has made it through the Senate now and hopefully will continue through the House and become legislation, which will really make it a lot easier for people not only to sell CBD products, but to process payments if you have online channels like we do, et cetera, et cetera. It's really taking off. It is the CBD is derived from industrial hemp, which has a much higher concentration of CBD than other strains of the plant, which have been used over the years for smoking marijuana. And our CBD has none of the psychoactive ingredient THC, so it is legal. There's no THC, it's just CBD. The CBD has been used in Asian medicines, for example, for over 1,000 years, probably closer to 2,000 years. People around the world have known about the benefits of CBD for a very long time and have used it for a very long time. But in the U.S., because of the whole criminalization of marijuana and just perceptions about marijuana in general, it's really been slow to catch on here, and it's really only in the last year or two that it's started to catch on. It, as you said, has been used it's been used for thousands of years, and as you said, it's got a lot of beneficial properties, including pain management, pain relief, relief of anxiety. It helps people get a better night's sleep. A lot of people use CBD now in terms of an oil or a tincture, just as part of their everyday routine in order to, provide a little bit better day, a little wellness. And we think that it's going to take off. We've used our same technology that we use to infuse resveratrol into the coffee bean to infuse CBD into the coffee bean. So just like the resveratrol, it's only released on brewing, and it's a delicious gourmet coffee that just has this additional CBD.
So I would think it's a tremendous challenge to market the product and essentially you're trying to allay concerns about its supposed connection to marijuana, even though it's coming from hemp. How have you thought about that? What is the plan in terms of how to market the product?
Well, you're absolutely right. We were a little nervous. We knew that the trend was coming. I think we're at the forefront of this for sure. Certainly where coffees are concerned, we are. But we could see the trend coming. If you followed CBD and CBD production in this country, in Canada, and around the world, you realize that the horse is already out of the barn, believe me. And so it was not a question of if, but only when we would jump into this new product because we knew it would be a winner. I have to tell you, once we introduced the product, we were very pleasantly surprised with the reception. A lot of our customers knew about CBD already, a much larger percentage than we anticipated, and they just were very anxious to try it, and once they try it, they love it. So for us, and our customer base was extremely receptive to the CBD, more so than even we envisioned, and we've had absolutely no negative comments about introducing this product. People are not associating it with marijuana that you smoke, and rightly so. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with this cannabidiol compound, which is in the hemp, that really has these beneficial properties, and it has to do with a delicious gourmet coffee.
So are you finding that people are learning about it as they have with your initial product from the web, from your site? In other words, are the people who are buying your the current product, the coffee that has the resveratrol in it, are they the ones that are getting to know this product, or are you attracting some other consumers through your website?
Great question. I think it's both. So when we first introduced the wellness blend with CBD, we immediately attracted a whole new set of customers that we'd not seen before, who probably hadn't heard of us before or hadn't tried our product yet. And they found out about the CBD product through various channels and then came to our website or elsewhere and they purchased it and they liked it. But very interestingly, as I said, our existing customer base has been really receptive to the product, and there was a certain percentage of them that immediately wanted to try it. I would say probably 20% of our existing customer base wanted to give it a go, and over time that percentage has grown and grown and grown, and we're seeing now that people are switching their subscriptions. We offer a subscription service so that you can get your coffee delivered fresh to your door on regular intervals. We let our customers set the intervals every 2 weeks, every month, whatever it may be. and then it just arrives at their doorstep like clockwork when they need it. And we're seeing that some of our existing customers are switching to CBD, to our wellness blend. So that says a lot. That says they've tried it, they enjoy it, and they want that to become their regular coffee now.
And what are they saying about the product, given the characteristics of what CBD sort of provides, which has to do with inflammation and pain relief and anti-anxiety? Yeah. What are the things that they're saying about consuming the coffee and how they're feeling?
Well, everyone's experience is unique. People come in to try that coffee for a variety of different reasons. We have a customer who is a martial arts professional. I'm guessing in his late 40s, and he's been doing he's been a martial arts instructor for a long time, and he's still active and participates in the discipline. And he gets beat up a lot basically, and he's got a lot of aches and pains. And he was one of our early adopters, and he told our team that he felt the benefits of our CBD coffee after the very first cup, which was great. And we've got other customers who, I would say most other customers are not in martial arts, but they may have some aches and pains. They may have some issues with anxiety. They may have some issues with poor sleep. And every customer who's tried our product has given a favorable response. The only thing we've heard that hasn't been entirely favorable is the price point. Even that, though, it's $35 for a bag of coffee seems like a lot. But once the folks that are kind of having a little bit of sticker shock realize that the cost of CBD is expensive, and if you try to get your CBD through other products, you're also going to have to pay a very high price for those products, they quickly backtrack from that position and realize that that's just the cost of CBD. So no bad comments at all from our customers concerning the properties of the coffee and the benefits of the coffee. A little bit of sticker shock from a few who aren't familiar with the price points of CBD products.
So we've been talking with Dr. Glen Miller, an organic chemist who figured out not only how to get resveratrol into coffee, but also CBD into coffee with his new wellness blend, Coffee, and I want to spell that. It's COFFVEE. Dr. Miller, a couple of the questions is, what other products are you seeing CBD in at this point?
Probably the most popular CBD products are oils, which or tinctures, which you would basically put directly onto something you're about to eat, or perhaps just drop onto your tongue, and also gummies. Those were very early products, so you can purchase, these gummy chews that have a certain amount of CBD in them. I would say those are the most popular products, but people are getting very innovative, and we've seen some other products recently which are different. Very recently, I saw a CBD product which is a bit like chapstick, except that it's got CBD in there, and you basically apply it directly to the part of your body where you might be experiencing an ache or a pain. I think, as I said a few minutes ago, I think the number of products and just the impact that CBD has on consumers is really going to take off in the next couple of years. We're going to see a lot of products.
And do you see regulations following in terms of CBD and, the definitions of CBD, how it can be used, how it can't be used, these kinds of things?
So the problem associated with CBD and hemp and marijuana is, of course, THC, which is a different compound. It's the one that gives you a high when you smoke marijuana. It's the psychoactive ingredient in the plant. That is unfortunately muddying the water where CBD is concerned, and there is certainly some confusion amongst certain government officials about CBD and THC. A lot of them think they're the same thing, and et cetera. Yeah. So there's some education that has to take place, but I can tell you that I'm quite confident that education has already started and that it's moving rapidly. If you look at the Farm Bill that passed the U.S. Senate already and now is on its way to the House. That farm bill really eases restrictions and on hemp, and in particular, that's going to make it a lot easier for people to get into CBD products. In fact, some of our states, like maybe Kentucky, where powerful senator may be from, could really benefit from CBD if they were to switch over their tobacco farms to farms that might produce industrial hemp and then extract the CBD out of them. We're seeing this already happening all around the world, really. There's less demand for traditional marijuana and much more demand for industrial hemp with high concentrations of CBD. We've even heard stories of some of the farms burning their marijuana plants, which were grown in order to produce traditional marijuana to be smoked, and so that they can get rid of it and start producing industrial hemp, which is more valuable now. So I have a lot of confidence that we're moving in the right direction. We're moving towards greater education of CBD and its values, and moving away from the link some people still have between CBD and THC.
It would seem to me, as there's more production of this hemp, I imagine the price will also start to come down and make it more affordable to put it into products.
Absolutely.
So that's usually what follows. Yeah.
No question that will happen. The supply is really being cranked up as we speak, and of course, that's going to impact the price.
Yeah. There's a fine line between being a food and being a drug. What's your point of view on how to define the difference?
Well, for our products, we're not introducing any experimental drugs. We're only introducing compounds that have been around for thousands of years and that have been consumed for thousands of years. If you think about resveratrol, for example, it's this powerful antioxidant that Mother Nature places in red wine. Red wine is one of the oldest drinks known to man. Other than water itself, red wine might be the second oldest drink. And it's been used by humans for thousands and thousands of years, and assuming you drink it responsibly, it's known to be very, very safe. CBD is the same story. We know from Asian medicine that it's been used for thousands of years, and it's been used well and responsibly. It had nothing to do with getting a high or anything like that. It had to do with pain relief and anxiety relief. And so we focus on compounds that Mother Nature made a long time ago and that have been tested by humans for thousands of years. The other product we sell is a sunshine blend, which is very popular with vitamin D. Our bodies produce vitamin D naturally, but only if we're exposed to sun. And a lot of people just don't get as much sun exposure as they used to for a variety of reasons, whether they're afraid of skin cancer or they lather up with sunblock, which cuts down on vitamin D production dramatically. One way or the other, they've got to get their vitamin D in order to maintain bone health and heart health. And so we offer an alternative way to do that. But we're not introducing a new compound. We're not introducing new drugs. We're really focusing on things that have been around for thousands of years.
I actually have so many more questions to ask you, but I've been told I get to ask you one more question because we're running out of time. And that is, what advice would you give to anyone thinking about using CBD in their products for relevant health benefits?
I think it would be the same advice that you'd give to somebody who's just basically about to launch a new product of any type, particularly a food product. And that would be, make sure you know your audience and know your customer base. And if you don't know them as well as you should, then spend some time getting to know them, ask them questions, figure out what their interests are and what they want to see in a CBD product or any other product, and make sure you're listening carefully and moving in the direction that they tell you should be moving.
Wonderful. Well, I want to thank you, Dr. Miller, for being on the program, and I'm going to turn it to Don for some final comments.
Dr. Miller, it's interesting. You may not be aware that I sit on the board of a nonprofit medical marijuana here in New Jersey, dispensaries. And what you said, many issues really hit home. I have a question for you. Have you ever thought of selling your coffee through the various dispensaries around the country?
Yes, actually, we've been reaching out to a few to see what the reception would be, and so far it's been favorable. And it's actually one of the channels that we intend to explore in the next, let's say, 6 to 12 months. Particularly, as you know, since you're working so closely with dispensaries, the landscape is changing very rapidly. The number of states that have dispensaries is growing in real time, and so we think this could be a very interesting channel for us. And most definitely, we're reaching out and starting to make some relationships.
Well, I'd like to introduce your product into my next board meeting, so perhaps we could talk about that offline. We have been talking. We've been talking with Glen Miller. He's Dr. Glen Miller of Vera Roasting Company. A link to his website. Dr. Miller, will you tell our audience your website?
Absolutely. It's veraroasting.com. V-E-R-A is Vera, and that's actually the middle of resveratrol. That's how the name originates. Veraroasting.com.
Dr. Miller, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Don, and thank you, Ann. It's been a real pleasure.
To be successful, most restaurant owners require extra capital from time to time. When you need funding to renovate, buy equipment, or manage cash flow, you don't have time to track down financial statements or wait weeks for a decision. That's where Cabbage can help. Cabbage gives small businesses access to a line of credit of up to $200,000. Apply online and you'll get a decision right away. Since Cabbage is a line of credit, you can take the exact amount you need. You never have to reapply to take additional loans, and you'll only pay for the funds you use. Cabbage has helped more than 230,000 businesses from every industry. And with $4 billion in funding, Cabbage is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau and was named the Forbes Top 100 Companies twice in a row. Check out Cabbage at cabbageWithAK.com/food and wine, and you'll get a $50 gift card when you qualify. That's KABBAGE.com/food and wine.
Line of credit is subject to credit approval. See terms and conditions. All Cabbage business loans are issued by Celtic Bank, a Utah chartered industrial bank, member FDIC.
And our next guest is Laura Sorkin of Runamok Maple Syrup. She's here to talk about her company's unique approach to that very favorite condiment that on our breakfast table and other times. Laura, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Well, Ann, it's all yours.
Thank you, Don. Just by way of introduction, Eric and Laura Sorkin are co-founders of Runamok Maple from Vermont. Laura, you came to the maple sugaring business in a rather unconventional way. You and your husband were both either, I think your husband was a successful lawyer, you were a chef. Tell us the story behind how you met and why you left sort of the concrete jungle of New York and D.C. for the rural life in Vermont.
Yes. So we met in graduate school. My husband was getting his degree in environment and law, and I was getting a master's of environmental management. We're both really dedicated to environmental issues, so we did what we thought we ought to do, which is head off to D.C., and we both worked for environmental causes with nonprofits. But neither one of us was really terribly happy, and all along I had sort of had this thought in the back of my head that I would really like to start a farm. I'm really obsessed with growing things. I'm obsessed with great food and fresh vegetables, but it didn't really seem like something that one does if one doesn't have a background in agriculture, so we sort of backburnered it. thinking it might be a nice retirement idea. But it's good we didn't, because it turns out starting a farm is a lot of hard work and takes a tremendous amount of energy, and is best done by someone who is a little bit younger. So basically, after a year in D.C., we fast-tracked the farm idea and moved to Vermont. So we started a diverse veggie farm, and we did that for about 10 years. And then after that, it sort of became really clear to us that we were going to have to get much, much bigger in order to really make a profit and make a sustainable living doing it. So we were sort of looking around for what other options we could do to continue to live here and remain in the agricultural sector. And most of our property is actually steeply sloped forest with a beautiful sugar bush, which I didn't know what that phrase was before I moved to Vermont either. I kind of pictured like a single bush that you tap, but what it really means is you have a lot of sugar maples that are rather densely planted, and so it's easy to get to a lot of sugar maples at once. So that's what a sugar bush is. And we happen to have a lot of beautiful maples, sugar maples and red maples on our property. So we started sugaring in 2009, and we went big very fast, and we now have about 100,000 taps on our property and adjacent properties. So we are probably the third largest maple syrup producer in Vermont.
And do you actually run the lines right from the trees into the sugar house, or do you actually?
We do. It's actually really convenient. It's all in one nice big watershed, so all of the lines eventually end up in our sugar house, except we do have 2 remote locations now. Other people are tapping their trees, and we are buying the sap from them, essentially, and boiling it down at our sugar house.
So you launched your brand Runamok, which, by the way, I love, Maple in 2016. So tell us a little bit about how you came up with that name and what it means to you.
Runamok is evocative of the fact that we've based our business on the weather, which is a really loony idea. A sugar maker has between 2 and 6 weeks to make an entire year's crop, and it is completely dependent upon the weather. And of course, with things being the way they are, there is no normal anymore. We don't have normal sugaring seasons. It used to be that you could depend on having the sap run in the month of March, by and large. Now we tap in January, and it runs anytime between January and April, and sometimes not at all. So things are always going wrong up in the sugar bush. We get high winds around here. We can get 5 feet of snow within 24 hours. So that's where Runamok came from.
I see. And how have you funded the business?
Well, we took out a loan in order to initially get up off the ground. So that was the first step, and we have since been sort of working on building capital and investing as we see fit. Okay, and you, I think I know this, but I have forgotten. How many pounds or ounces of sap does it take to make a gallon of maple syrup? It takes about 40 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of maple syrup. So that means you need a lot of trees. Yes, we do. And your acreage is how much at this point? We have about 1,000 acres, and we also lease taps from our neighbors and adjacent properties. So that's how we are able to maintain it all in one watershed. So we probably tap about 1,200 acres total. That all ends up in one sugar house. Wow. Tell us a little bit about what you bring to the maple syrup category that hasn't already been done. Well, we started sugaring in 2009, and we were selling bulk at first. And then we decided we would enter the retail market, but we wanted to do something a little bit different. So we do infused, smoked, and barrel-aged maple syrup. The infused is pretty much what it sounds like. We infuse it with herbs and spices. And we've tried to really think outside the box. It turns out maple syrup is really complementary to a whole host of flavors. And as you said, I have a culinary background, so we've had a lot of fun messing around with different herbs to try and spices. And there's been a tremendous amount of success. I mean, there's like the tried and true ones, which would be cinnamon, vanilla, just very classic flavors for maple syrup. But then there's ones that we tried, and I give full credit to my husband for this one, which is a Thai lime leaf with maple syrup. And you wouldn't think lime and maple would work, but it's absolutely a fan favorite. It is so good. It's very floral. It's an entirely different being, but still has that maple syrup base to it. So I think we have a lot more infused flavors than most other producers, and it runs the gamut from spicy chili to elderberry, macroot lime leaf, ginger, the cinnamon, vanilla, hibiscus. You can go on our website and check out all of the other ones. So we also do a smoked maple, and that one, it's not necessarily for pancakes, although I do know a few people that do like to put it on bacon. It's more for cooking. It's also fantastic in cocktails. And lastly, we do the barrel-aged. And the barrel-aged have proven to be our most popular. We take our maple syrup and we put it in a recently emptied rum, rye, or bourbon barrel and let it age for about 9 to 12 months. And it soaks up the essence of the whiskey, but there's no alcohol in it, or at least, no discernible alcohol in it. So you have a little bit of the rum flavor or the bourbon flavor with the maple, and they're very complementary to each other and unbelievable over pancakes and ice cream.
Where do you sell your products today?
We have a website. We're in over 1,000 stores across the country, so we're branching out quite a bit.
Tell me a little bit about the pricing of your product versus what's on the market today.
Well, our pure maple syrup is comparable to other people, but we do care quite a bit about packaging. We think maple syrup is really special, and it's also expensive. It's expensive to produce. Most people that buy it know it's expensive to buy. So we wanted to have it in a really nice bottle, essentially, with a beautiful label, something that you would give as a gift. Of course, a lot of people just like to buy it for themselves as well. But so we care quite a bit about the packaging, and consequently, the price is a little bit higher for our maple syrup because the price of the bottle is more expensive.
So is it on is it a 10-ounce bottle? Is it what sizes do you sell?
Let's see. So for retail, for a 750 ml bottle, I believe we charge $27. Mm-hmm. And for the infused, smoked, and barrel-aged, it's $16.95 for a 250 ml bottle.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. We've been talking with Laura Sorkin. She's a co-founder of Runamok Maple from Vermont. I would love for you to talk a little bit about, talk about the packaging, because packaging is really important in the category when people are thinking maple syrup and they see bottles that are shaped like maple leaves. Tell us a little bit about how you really drove distinction in your packaging.
Well, first of all, we think the color of maple syrup is really beautiful, so we wanted to have it in a clear glass bottle. Mm-hmm. Same for the label. We have a see-through label with just etching on it and a small flavor band at the bottom to identify which flavor it is. And that way you can really see the maple syrup itself. And our maple syrup is, generally speaking, dark amber rich, but the infused ones, like if you add hibiscus, it creates a much darker, almost red color to it. So when you have all the bottles lined up next to each other, it's actually quite a beautiful display with the different colors that way. And we do a lot of tastings because our stuff is so unusual. That's how we get the word out about it. And once people try it, they're usually converts, honestly. But it really worked to our advantage because the very first fancy food show that we did in New York City, we were spied by Oprah's people, and they were initially drawn to our packaging, and they thought it was absolutely gorgeous. And then they tried it, and they loved it, so they sent it off to Oprah. She tried it, and basically, long story short, our first year we were selected as one of Oprah's favorite things. So that was huge, and it was honestly, they were initially drawn to the beautiful bottles and the labels that we came up with.
Well, that's a pretty impressive endorsement to be one of Oprah's favorite things. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
How much, Laura, what percent of your business do you think you're selling online versus at retail?
That's a good question. Probably a better one for my husband. I would say probably 40% online and then 60% on retail, since we're in so many stores now.
And is there a seasonality, do you find, with maple syrup in terms of when it sells?
Generally speaking, a lot more of it sells in the colder months because people think pancakes generally, and that's one of our major goals right now, is to have people think outside the box for maple syrup and use it as more of an everyday sweetener. We are really pushing it for cocktails. It's actually a no-brainer if you think about it. A lot of cocktails, you add just a little bit of sugar to the cocktail, and even a simple syrup or something like grenadine. Our infused maple syrups are so much easier, and especially the infused ones will add a little bit of extra, like our ginger infused. I think we have at least 3 or 4 cocktails on our website that use the ginger infused maple in it, and it really elevates the cocktail. It's sort of a richer flavor than just adding sugar. So, it's also great just in iced tea. I use it all summer long. I don't really like my iced tea very sweet, so just a little half teaspoon of the ginger infused maple syrup in iced tea is really lovely. So we're trying to get people to think of maple syrup a lot more in the warmer months, especially on ice cream. It's also quite nice. But at the moment, I would say our sales are definitely heavier in the winter months.
Mm-hmm. And so talk a little bit about, because you do have these, they're infused, they're smoked, they're barrel aged, you have these other flavors that are involved. So it's not just about maple syrup, but sort of taking maple syrup to a different level and trying to increase its versatility. What do you do to try and educate the consumer on that versatility in food and beverages? And I totally agree with you. The opportunity in spirits is like tremendous.
Oh yeah. Well, we do have an extensive website, and I'm usually adding at least 3 new recipes to it every month. We've got all of our social platforms. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. That's been very helpful in getting the word out. And, once you put up the gorgeous picture and you print out what's involved in making it, how easy it is, the light bulb goes on. You can tell that people are like, oh, I never thought to use maple syrup that way. And we're getting a lot of engagement on our social platforms that way. So that's been terrific, actually. So between the social platforms and, like I said, the tastings that we do, that's generally how we're getting the word out. And I think it's starting to work. You're starting to hear a lot more about the barrel aging. The smoked maple is really catching on. So hopefully, just perseverance, just keep on at it.
Good for you. I mean, the other thing, I'd like to return a little bit to the business itself. How many people are involved in producing your product or selling it or distributing it?
We have about 35 employees right now. I would say about 12 of them are woods crew, and these guys are out there for 9 months out of the year. And then we also we sort of morph into a fencing company during the summer months so we can keep them on. We probably have an equal amount in production, doing shipping and bottling. And then we have a sales team, I think, of about 4 now.
Okay. And so you probably, in terms of the actual production of the product, that's kind of a short cycle for you. Do you find that the people that are working with you on producing the product, because of when the syrup comes in, do they come back year after year? And if so, why? They do.
We've had people on our crew who've been with us right from the start. It's probably some of the hardest working people you'll ever meet. We finally have a few women on the crew now, which is great. For a couple of years there, it was all men. But these are people who are up very early in the morning at 5 below zero, who go up onto a mountain with about 25 pounds on their back through 3 feet of snow in order to tap and fix lines. And they are an incredibly hardworking group of people, and we could not do this without them, for sure. Sometimes I'll go up and help them, but I'm no match for these guys. These guys are really fit and very hardy. And then the production crew is more of an inside group of folks, although we did have somewhat of a crisis on the mountain this past winter. We got a huge snowfall that was above our lines, and it started to, when it warmed up, the snow compressed a little bit and started dragging all the lines down and popping out all of the taps just when the weather is getting to be perfect sap weather. So in a situation like that, we send everybody up on the mountain. So we were all up there, including the production crew, who some of them had never been on snowshoes before, up there fixing lines and trying to find the problems and get the whole thing up going. I mean, you've got, sometimes only 3 weeks out of the year for production. Absolutely every minute counts. So that's our focus during the season.
And how long does a maple tree actually produce sap?
It'll produce sap for the length of its life. Generally speaking, it doesn't start producing a tremendous amount of sap until it's around 40 years old. We are certified organic, so it has to be at least an 8-inch diameter tree. So, the older the better. All trees have a natural lifespan to it, so as long as the tree is alive, it'll be producing sap.
Wow. And how is it, because your husband was sort of a lawyer, you were a chef, and now you're working together in this business. How has that worked?
You just learn as you go. I mean, it's just that simple. My husband is actually very good at mechanics and engineering, and he went and he spent time at a bunch of different sugar houses and worked for a season for another sugar maker to sort of learn the trade. And then he went around asking other sugar makers what they would do differently with building their sugar house, with setting up their rig, et cetera. And pretty much every single one of them said, I would have built it bigger. I would have built the whole thing bigger. And so we started off pretty big, and then we got bigger anyway. So we outgrew the sugar house, so we are in the process of moving to a facility in the next town over of Fairfax, which was the old Scrabble tile factory, which was producing the Scrabble tiles for the Milton Bradley game up until about 10 years ago. So we moved in there, and we are just in the process of finishing it up, turning it back into a food processing facility. And so everything except for making the maple syrup will be done over there. All of the infusing, the barrel aging, the shipping, the packaging will be done over there. We will continue to make the maple syrup here, though, at our place.
Okay. Well, we've been talking with Laura Sorkin, co-founder of Runamok Maple from Vermont, with her husband, Eric. Laura, what's the most important things you've learned over this journey? Just go for it. You just got to try. I mean, there's things that seem like they might be a little bit nutty, but I would just say perseverance and don't be afraid to try new things. And some of them might not work or be tremendous failures, but I would say just keep trying. And if you have a gut instinct that there's a hole in the market that you think you can fill, by all means, give it a try. And what's the best advice you've ever been given about getting into the maple syrup business? I don't know about advice for the maple syrup business. I think it was more, we had some very stubborn determination after we were told by a lot of people that we wouldn't be able to do it. I think both of us sort of dug our heels in at that point and were extra determined to make it work. There's a lot of people, when they hear what your plans are, sort of shake their heads and say, that's a lot of work, thinking like you don't know what you're getting into. And maybe you don't, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to succeed in it. Right. And, it seems, as you were talking about taking out loans and things like that, where do you think you need to get? Scale becomes kind of a really important piece of continuing to expand. Mm-hmm. It does. And at the moment, we are entering into the next level just by having this new facility. We will be certified for essentially, an industrial scale food production.
and that opens the door to a lot of wholesale accounts that will be really beneficial to us. So I wouldn't get into numbers about how much that costs. It costs quite a bit, but we're hoping in the end that it'll be worth it.
And you have 2 children. How have you involved them in the business?
They love it. They're really proud, I think, of their parents for doing this. But at the same time, they grew up in Vermont, and so maple syrup to them just comes with scenery. They don't see it as anything particularly unusual or different. It's only when they go out of the state and we might visit friends elsewhere, and they look at it and they say, their parents produce maple syrup, and the other kids get really bug-eyed about it, that my kids think, oh, okay, maybe this is something a little bit cool. But they will occasionally head down and help out with packaging and labeling and box making and whatnot, but one of them is 14, one of them is 11, so we can only ask so much at this point.
And, it seems like you always have a plan in place, and you have thought through what you're doing, and yet you have this tremendous passion and sort of, I'm going to make this work one way or another. Have you thought about what the future holds? What do you want to be doing next with the business?
Well, since we're just about to move into this new facility, we're really excited to see what opportunities that can bring us. We've already got a bunch of things on our plate lined up that we're hoping to see come to fruition. And I suppose we'll take it from there. But it is growing, particularly the barrel-aged is so popular now that we can't keep up. So we'll continue to grow that. We've got a couple of different types of barrel aging that we do that specialize. Like we'll do an apple brandy for more of the holiday season that is unbelievably good. We've done one with Caledonia gin where they have a barrel-aged gin that we have aged our maple syrup in. That turned out very nicely. So, just keep experimenting, keep growing, keep trying new flavors. That's pretty much our plan.
And I have the opportunity to ask you one last question, and it would be, what advice would you give to a budding entrepreneur?
Don't let anybody tell you that it's not going to work. If you think it's got promise, don't listen to the naysayers. Just keep going forward. Terrific.
Well, Laura, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed our conversation. I think Vermont is a beautiful state. I would love to come up and visit with you.
Anytime.
I have seen sugaring operations, and it's very, very impressive to watch these lines that sort of run from the tree right to the sugar house. It's pretty fantastic. John, I'm going to turn it back to you to close us out.
It's ironic, and I was thinking the same thing. We were wondering where to go for a vacation, and
come on up anytime. You're welcome.
Well, Laura, we've been talking with Laura Sorkin of Runamok Maple Syrup. The answer is we may take you up on it because your operation just sounds so fascinating.
If you come up in March, that's what we consider mud season. It's not necessarily the prettiest time, or at least not for your car, but it's really fascinating to see the trees run and to see, 100,000 drips all accumulated at once comes in like a fire hose, and that's actually pretty cool to see.
You really should do a YouTube video of it.
We have. Not YouTube, but if you go to our Facebook page and you scroll back to the sugaring season, which is around March and April, we have several videos that show the sap coming in.
Well, I'm definitely going to do that, but still, if we do get up there, I do really want to stop by and see your operation. But in the meantime, there'll be a link to your website on foodandwineinsider.com tonight. You can also hear on our website all past and future shows, as well as tell us guests like Laura you'd like to hear on the program. Laura Sorkin, thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
You've been listening to Food and Wine Insider with Ann Daw and Don Mazzella. Want to join us on a future show? Contact us at foodandwineinsider.com. Until next time, have a passion for food, wine, and profits, and think of our program, Food and Wine Insider.